everyone. My name is Kaitlin Alford. I am the Parks Communications and Customer Service Assistant at Vermont State Parks. And I am here at my home in Hardwick today to talk to you about what it takes to plan and safely go on an awesome winter hike. So this is our Know Before You Go um, How to Prepare for Winter Hiking program. Our goal here is to help you succeed in winter hiking. Um, and if I could just get you guys to send what is your favorite winter activity in the chat, and what is your biggest challenge when you go outside in the winter. Um, I know for a lot of people, they love going outside. They found that this year especially, they love going outside. And it's become a place to find inner peace and just like have a good time that's safe and maybe a little bit outside of their normal comfort zone. And we're here to try to help people um, navigate that through winter as well. Winter has its own sets of challenges. I'm trying to see how many folks we've got on here. Um, I'm not seeing it pop up right now. So if you guys are sending in questions, I'm going to do my best um, to answer those as those come in. But if I don't see them, I will make sure to answer them at the very end. Um, let's go ahead and let's get started. Um, so for me, I love to go hiking outside. Part of the reason I'm doing this program. Um, the challenge I face is it can be a little bit uncomfortable to get outside in winter, and knowing where my personal comfort zone is and how to get outside and still have a good time, um, even if it's pretty chilly outside. Um, let's see. So big things to think about for this winter. Um, Not only is going outside in winter a little bit more challenging than other times of the year, but we are still in the COVID-19 pandemic. So please make sure that you are following all safety and travel restrictions put forward by the Department of Health. Um, right now, if anyone who's coming into Vermont or who has left Vermont is required to do a quarantine. Um, that is always subject to change. Think about it like the weather. You want to check in on the weather before you go on a hike. Make sure you're checking in with the Department of Health to check in on the latest for what to do to be safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Um, and check in at that Vermont Department of Health's COVID-19 page. Let's see. I'm not seeing questions yet, but that's okay. Um, all right, so we'll keep trucking. Um, So our goal here is I just want to let you all know that planning ahead and being prepared can help winter hiking be both safe and enjoyable. Um, Winter is a great time to go outside. There's less people on the trails typically. It's a little bit quieter. Um, so it's just nice taking those little details like the snow falling um, or seeing tracks in the ground. And it's one of my favorite times to get outside. There are unique challenges. Oh, hey, we did get a question. Um, Gary Orn, do I ever go solo hiking? Sometimes yes. It is, I've, so a little bit about my experience. I have worked in outdoor education and I've been hiking since I was a kid on parts of the AT. I do go solo, but I make sure that I have my hiking plan in place, that I'm not doing anything um, above where my skill and comfort level is, and we're going to go through how to gauge that. I do think it's a really great idea to have a buddy um, for winter hiking for a number of reasons. You can split up gear. Um, you can, if something goes wrong, you have somebody there. If you have a friend who's more experienced hiking, it's great to learn from your friends and family members who may have a little bit more experience. But do keep in mind right now those um, COVID-19 restrictions in terms of group size. And right now, you can only meet up with one person outside of your household doing an outdoor activity, and make sure you're maintaining social distance and wearing a mask as well. And yes, December 11th, today, this is the program right now. Um, all right, so let's see. Um, yep, having a buddy is great. Um, so that being said, make sure that you are taking the time to build up your skills. So when I say winter hiking, this could just mean going for a hike around the block. It doesn't necessarily have to be scaling a big mountain. It can just be going outside and getting used to being outside and building up the skills for you to be able to check in on yourself to make sure that you're being safe when getting outside. Um, Even the same trailhead that you've been on in the summer is going to be a little bit different in the wintertime. It's colder, it's windier, um, there's going to be snow and ice depending on the time of year. So a trail that takes you an hour to go around, it could take 2 or 3 hours depending on the situation. Um, if you're not used to doing a big, this might, it's not the time of year to try to do a big crazy hike. Um, so if you've never hiked Camel's Hump, winter is not the time to do it. Um, there is always another time. If there's not good weather, reschedule for a different day. If you're not feeling well, reschedule for a different day. It's going to be there later. You can always come back. Um, let's see. Um, Other super important things for winter hiking. Trailheads can actually be in a different spot than they would be during the summer. Um, for Vermont State Parks, we have a winter activities page that has our off-season access that lists for each state park whether or not it's plowed, um, if you can get to the gate. Oftentimes, so at Smuggler's Notch, everybody knows the gate closes um, and it's not plowed through there. So there's a couple extra miles to get to the trailheads in that area. So always check that ahead of time and make a plan. Um, it's also important. There's not super big trail like parking for trailheads in the wintertime. So having a backup trailhead or place to go, if it looks busy, it's always good to have a backup plan. You don't want to crowd the trails normally in the winter, but especially this year to make sure you're giving everybody the social distancing that they need um, during the pandemic. Let's see. And then super crucial for wintertime, it is darker for a lot more of the day. A pretty good rule of thumb is to not start a hike after 2 p.m. It's dark at my house by, I think it's 4:11 right now is sundown here. So you're going to want to make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to get out on the trail and get back without feeling like you need to rush um, just because it's getting dark and cold outside. Um, if you need to come up with a place for extra trails, trailfinder.info is a really great place to find trails in your area. It lists what kinds of hikes are in the area, elevation change, all that good stuff. Um, it's really important to take elevation into account when you're planning a hike. Um, so if you get a weather forecast for Burlington and you were to go up, let's say the campsite, for every 1,000 feet of elevation, it's going to be 5 degrees colder. Um, so it can be 10 to 15 degrees colder at the top of a mountain than from the base, and that becomes especially important in the wintertime. Um, let's see. All right, so how do we know what kind of gear we need to bring with us? Do we have any questions? Hey, we do have questions. Let's see. Um, let's see. We have not gotten to clothes layering yet. That is our next big topic. And I've got some examples for you all. In terms of hiking with little ones, as well as yourself, so it's good to be able to check in with yourself. You are the expert for what you need in a situation, and kids are pretty good at. They may not necessarily know exactly what they need, but they're pretty good at asking. Say like, "I'm cold. I'm tired." Don't try to overshoot. That goes for you, and that goes for the kids as well. Um, Little ones tend to get cold really fast, um, whereas adults we can kind of maintain our body temperature a little easier. Um, so big thing, there are three big categories to our layers. Um, so first, we want to make sure um, that we are staying warm. So wintertime, it is, our bodies like to be a warm July day. Um, Whereas if you're talking about going hiking in January, the lows, it ends up being like 14 degrees. So that's almost a full temperature scale down. So you're going to have to keep that temperature warm next to you. And some pretty important factors. So we make our own body heat. Um, so by staying hydrated and eating food, we can help stoke our fires and help keep ourselves warm. Things that are going to make that harder to deal with are wind blowing in. It's going to blow that heat away from our bodies, as well as water. So if you have snow or you have sweat because you're getting really hot when you're hiking, um, you want to make sure that you are pulling that water away from you. Um, and so we're going to try to account for all these things. So you can control what you're wearing, but you can't necessarily control the weather. So it's always important to check in to make sure that you're ready for snow, rain. Is it going to be really windy? Because a windy day can be a lot harder to deal with um, than just like a nice, like no wind chill and 20 degrees is awesome. A lot of wind on a 20-degree day is a lot colder. Um, let's see. So yeah, wearing different kinds of layers is super important. Um, so for the layer closest to your skin, you're gonna want something that'll pull any kind of sweat away from you. So that's gonna be our base layer. For clothes, we're gonna wanna pick things that are gonna wick away the moisture and also be warm. So I've got these base layers here that are, I use wool. Um, I've got a friend who cannot use wool because she's allergic to it, so she uses synthetic things. But this is the layer that's going to be closest to your skin. It helps pull that sweat away, but wool also stays really warm when it's wet. So you'll put that on. That's our first layer. Um, our second is going to be our middle layer, so that's going to be puff. So our insulating layer that helps keep the body heat that you're making close to you. Um, so it's like when you scuttle down into your sleeping bag or under the covers in the wintertime and you've got that hot air pocket and you're nice and cozy. That's what we're building here with that middle layer. So some people wear a sweater. Um, I have a puffy jacket that I wear um, that has feathers inside of it that help keep that air space around there. Just like birds have feathers to keep them warm in winter and they go and puff up. Um, we're doing the same thing here. We don't have feathers, but we can borrow some birds or use synthetic materials that do the same kind of thing. Um, let's see. Then we've got our outside layer. So sure, these two things are going to help keep us warm and keep that air next to us, but if we just have a strong breeze blowing through there or we have water coming on top of it, that's going to pull the heat away from us. So you're going to want to make sure that you also have a shell. So that's something that's going to help protect, keep you from the wind and the rain. So I've got this water resistant um, jacket here that I can put that helps keep the heat inside of me as well. Um, So yeah, the big thing here is you are trying to keep your skin from being exposed to the cold. So we've got most of our body covered by these layers here, um, but things like your ears and your neck and hands, those are going to be out as well. So I like to use a scarf or a buff um, to help cover up this area, which helps keeps you extra warm. Um, as well as gloves are super important. Um, Mittens are great. I use a liner underneath these, but mittens are really awesome because they create that little pocket of hot air around your hand as well, which can help if you have really cold fingers like mine. Um, do we have any questions or about layering so far? All right, I don't see anything right now. Um, but if it, if you think it and I just haven't gotten it, make sure to type it and we will answer that question. Um, so if we've got our hands and necks and everything covered, um, make sure to put a hat on because you will lose heat through there as well. Um, there's some fact where if you don't wear a hat, you lose a bunch of heat. If it's the only part of your head that's not covered, you are going to lose a lot of heat through that area. Um, but it's just as important to cover the rest of your body as well. Um, so we've got our body covered. Um, super crucial. If we're going to go hiking, we're going to use our feet. So it's important to have good socks. Again, synthetic or wool, some kind of blend in there. I like to have a liner sock that, again, wicks that moisture away from my foot, as well as like a big fluffy guy that I put in there. Um, and then I've got my heavy duty winter hiking boots here. There's more intense ones. Again, it's going to depend on how intense of a hike you're going on. If you were going mountaineering, you would have much more intense boots than these. Yeah, and then somebody asked, let's see. So for lower legs, I also, my my base layer, I've got some wool that I put on there. And I also have these snow pants of mine that I have. They're water resistant as well and snow resistant, and they help keep that water out while keeping you warm. There's a little bit of fleece in the inside that keeps them a little extra warm as well. Um, let's see. So we've got our boots, but it's pretty icy and snowy. So you're going to need a little bit of extra help. You're going to need some traction in there. So it depends on what kind of trail you're going on. You're going to either, if it's a really icy trail and it's a hard surface, micro spikes. Some people use yak tracks in cities. Um, Micro spikes are really handy for trails that are icy and that you're not going to bust through the surface. So if it's soft snow, um, you are going to punch straight through that. And that's bad for a couple of reasons. That's called post-holing. You're putting your leg through. It's going to ruin the trail for other people behind you. It could refreeze, and then people could twist their ankle. You could step through it and twist your ankle on something. So if that's the case and you're going in a really snowy situation, snowshoes are a really great idea, and I would say a must. So I've also got snowshoes that I use. The type that you're going to want is going to vary depending on, again, exactly what you're doing. You want to take into account your weight and how much weight you're going to be carrying with you in terms of gear. The nice thing about snowshoes is that a lot of them have these little teeth here that basically do the same thing that those micro spikes do. Um, if you're just getting started, you can rent these out for pretty cheap, or look for places to thrift them from. Um, Again, make sure that it's um, consignment. Consignment is the word I'm trying to find. There's lots of places that do consignment gear here, so they check the safety of them and things like that before you use them. But just make sure you're going to want something that's going to support your weight as well as letting you um, walk on snow and ice without not doing so well. Think about it as putting the snow tires on your car. A couple of friends of me a year or two ago were in a national forest with a super easy little loop near a nature center. And we're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then somebody's like, we forgot the micro spikes. It's like, it'll be fine. It was not fine. If you imagine a bunch of cars skidding out on a hill, like on the first ice of the year, before just like penguins shooting left, shooting right, it was a mess. Don't do it. Be prepared. Even if you don't think you need it, bring it with you, because you never know. More likely than not, in wintertime, you're gonna need it. So let's see. We've got our traction, we've got our socks, we've covered our head. Let's see. Yeah, so to answer Gretchen's question, I would say if I think I'm going to be on a trail where I think there's going to be fresh snow or the sun's come out, I just go ahead and bring it. I can use a little clip to like clip it to my backpack. Um, but yeah, so make sure that you're ready for whatever conditions you think you might go on that trail. If it's a really popular trail, um, it's gonna it'll compact down, so you might just need the micro spikes. Um, but yeah, just be prepared for all situations. Winter is especially tricky, so you want to prepare for the worst case scenario. This is just a primer here. If you want to learn more, there's always more to learn, basically. Um, and I've taken a wilderness first aid class before, and I would strongly recommend it for anybody else because it kind of teaches you how to think on your feet and what you might need to account for a little bit better than this like quick dip in the sand. Um, and then my name is Kaitlin Alford. I'm the Parks Communications and Customer Service Assistant for Vermont State Parks. And no worries, thank you for asking, Gretchen. Um, and we're going over here making sure that with preparation and a little bit of planning, that winter hiking can be safe and fun for everybody involved. Um, let's see. Um, all right. And then so aside, once we've got our gear in check for our bodies, um, you are going to want to also bring the 10 essentials. Um, so that's something for navigation. That can be a map, compass, GPS. If you're going to use these, make sure you know how to use them. GPSs are only good if their batteries are working. A lot of people get lost if they try to use their cell phone and the battery dies. Batteries die super fast in the wintertime, so it's always a good idea to have a backup and be able to use a map and look out for those blue blazes on trails. I make sure to bring my headlamp or light source with me whenever I'm hiking. Even if I go out in daytime, you never know. Maybe you twist your ankle or something and you're on the trail a little bit longer than you need it. It's always better to be prepared. So have that headlamp or flashlight with you and extra batteries. Um, let's see. Preparing for the sun is super important. So we're mostly covered up, but it's really bright outside. I initially was going to go outside in my yard to do this, but the camera was not having it. So we're back in the house. Um, but yeah, so sunglasses are really great to help that you don't get sun blindness or things like that. I've also used ski goggles. Um, at the same time, they cover up a good chunk of your face, and so if you're snowshoeing, it's a little bit less to have exposed. Um, so that's a really great option. Do phones work? So I would not rely on a cell phone for navigation. Cell phone service is notoriously spotty, I would say, in Vermont. It depends on what area you're in. Um, I would say iPhones. I'm not sure the carriers that work best. It varies from place to place if there is any coverage or which carriers have the best coverage. Um, but always just be prepared to to self rescue if need be. So again, if you're in a situation where you think that um, don't go past your limits, is what I'm trying to say here. Um, Make sure to know yourself. So start small. Go small, even if it's a hike that you think you have tackled this hike like so many times in the summer. If it's your first time um, in the wintertime, start small. Aim for something that you don't think is is even potentially worth it because there's delightful things to be found on every trail. So just get that practice in. Let's see, sorry, got off track. So yeah, sun protection super important. Always have your first aid kit. I have a variety of things, so splints, bandages. It's good to have like Gatorade or some kind of like sugary snack. So if you're getting really cold, you need to reignite your fire, and sugary things are an easy way to get your body to burn some calories and warm yourself up. Um, let's see. And everybody's first aid kits are going to be a little bit different. Um, Depending on your group, if you have asthma or some kind of medication that you need, make sure you have those things and you're prepared. Um, I've got a checklist that you guys can use to kind of help you plan. Be aware that no checklist can cover every situation, but it's just things to think about and like big categories to cover while you're planning for your hikes. Um, so we've got first aid kit. I have a knife that I use. Um, it can be handy to just kind of make things out of rope. Um, you never know. I always keep a little bit of paracord because you can make splints. Um, if something on a ski or not ski snowshoe snaps, you can use it to tie it. Zip ties are really nice for that as well. Let's see. Fire. Some people will bring matches or a little camp stove with them. That way they could heat up water, make some food along the trail. Um, Shelter. So clothing can be a lot of your shelter. Um, for winter hikes, it's a really good idea. People will bring what they call a bivy. It's like an emergency shelter, or a sleeping bag with them and a tarp. That way, if for some reason you would have to stay out for an extended period of time, you're able to keep your body heat next to you, and stay warmer for longer if you're unable to move. Um, and then food, water. Again, keep that fire going in your belly. Um, you're going to want a little bit of extra food than you think you might need, a little bit of extra water. For my water bottle, I like to put hot water in it when I start. So be careful if it's a plastic water bottle because I do not do so good with that. And then I put a big thick wool sock around it to act as insulation for that. There's fancier ways to do it, but that's just what I do. Um, and then a couple extra clothes. So if you think you might get sweaty on the trail, I keep an extra, like just a change of clothes in my car, but I also bring like a wool sweater or an extra shirt, things like that. Um, but yeah, so that is just trying to figure out exactly what you need for your hike is going to vary based upon weather conditions, how many hikes you've gone on before, so that's your skill level. How hard is the hike that you want to go on? Is there a lot of different change in elevation? Um, are there a lot of logistics in getting there? Is the road even plowed that I'm trying to get to? Those are things to take into account. And then just making sure you're bringing all of the supplies with you that you need in order to set yourself up for success. So with a little bit of planning and being prepared, winter hiking can be safe and enjoyable. Um, does anybody have any other questions in the chat? I think I got most of them. Or does anybody have any burning questions they would like to answer? Because we're coming up to the end of our time now. While we're waiting for that, so the reason we did a planning program like this, we're hoping to keep doing some virtual winter hikes. And it's a lot to cover, as you know. Um, it takes a lot of thought before you go do the activity, and we want to be able to focus on whatever the hike entails that we're doing at the time. So we still will maybe touch base on a little of these points, but we're just trying to set people up for success no matter what you're doing. And we're really hoping to see you out there. If you're looking for more resources, again, check out wilderness first aid classes. They help you kind of build your toolkit and your experiences to handle whatever situation gets thrown at you. If you're looking for more trails, check out trailfinder.info, as well as vermontstateparks.com. We have a winter activities page that outlines which activities are best at certain parks, as well as which parks are accessible or not accessible during the winter. We are in our off season, so that means we are not currently staffing parks, which means anytime you go there, make sure you are bringing all your food and water, that you have that you're bringing all the supplies that you need. Um, Sorry, I get distracted. That you bring all the supplies that you need, and yeah, we have a lot of good resources on that page. Green Mountain Club has a really awesome catalog of resources from everybody from beginner hikers up to more advanced. So they just did a really awesome program about winter hiking and getting started on that. And they go all the way up to start touching into mountaineering, which is way beyond the scope of what we got to here. And then I'll include these links in the chat box after this. So you guys can check those out. Um, is the, um, I am not as familiar with all trails. I know that our trail managers use trailfinder.info. So if you're looking for the most up-to-date alerts and things like that, Trailfinder is the place to go. So that is going to be the most up-to-date because that is what's supported um, by Forest Parks and Recreation. So I know that like our land managers and our trail managers, they put the updates in there as soon as they go up. Um, let's see. Um, in terms of searching for good mountains near you, Trailfinder has a really great way where you can type in your location, um, and it'll give you within a certain radius if you're looking to snowshoe or hike or cross country ski or anything like that. Um, that's the best place to go. I'm not as familiar to Massachusetts. I'm currently closer to the right at the bottom of the Northeast Kingdom, so I'm not personally as familiar with that area. But Trailfinder folks would be 100% able to get you a great mountain. And then are all park roads and parking lots plowed? No, they are not. So if you go, I believe there should be a link that you could click from this video. If it's not there now, it'll be there in a minute. It's parks vtstateparks.com/winter activities. Um, it'll list which areas are plowed or not. Um, again, we're not fully staffed in the wintertime. This is our off season, but it'll say alternative parking areas nearby if there are any, and all that good stuff. There is also off season camping at certain parks, and that can be found on the same page that I'm going to list below. Um, all right. So I think for now, that's it. Thank you all so much for coming out here. If you think of any other questions, feel free to either comment in the box below or send an email to parks@vermont.gov, and we are happy to help you out. Thank you so much, and hope you guys have a great day.